Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome again. I'm Todd Mikkelson. You're listening to A Satellite View. We are speaking at you from December 7th, 2022, in the space and time continuum. It is the day of remembrance for Pearl Harbor, or as both Lauren Boebert and Kash Patel call it, Pearl Harbor. It seems like it would just be a mistake. You know, you forgot to type in the L, but the fact that they both said it makes me wonder. Lauren Boebert is, not very intelligent. And maybe he followed her. Oh, yeah, it's Pearl Harbor Day. Anyway. Wow. So it's been about 2 weeks, I believe, since we last spoke, and I said we would do a show soon, and I'm doing a show soon, and I said, I wonder what'll happen between now and then. Well, a lot has happened. The Trump organization has been found guilty on 17 counts of fraud, tax fraud, and it's complicated because there's 17 counts, but it's basically tax fraud. Of course, Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet, so QAnon, I'm sure, is thinking there's something going on. Just today, a Russian intelligence agent charged with fraud and money laundering in connection with purchase and use of luxury Beverly Hills real estate. The defendant was sanctioned in 2020 for attempting to interfere in the U.S. presidential election. The 7-count indictment was unsealed today in a federal court in Brooklyn, charging Andriy Derkach, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, with conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, bank fraud conspiracy, money laundering conspiracy, and 4 counts of money laundering in connection with the purchase and maintenance of 2 condominiums in Beverly Hills, California. He allegedly purchased the properties in violation of new U.S. sanctions imposed earlier this year and concealed his interest in the transaction. So, yeah. Russia. There's nothing to see here. Money laundering, I like my money dirty. I like my money good and dirty. I would never launder it. Another thing that happened is that last night, Herschel Walker lost. So Senator and Reverend Raphael Warnock is going back to D.C. to continue being a senator. He won by almost 3 points. Wanda Sykes said, I bet they asked Herschel Walker if he was ready to make his concession speech, and he said, yes, 2 hot dogs, please. I wasn't imitating anybody there. I forgot to go into imitation mode. What else happened? 208 Republicans just said that immigrants who served in the U.S. military should not become Americans. Oh, yeah, during a congressional gold medal ceremony for January 6th police yesterday, representatives of those receiving awards shake hands with Schumer and Pelosi, and then they just pass by McConnell and McCarthy, the double McNothing burger. They passed by both of the Micks as though they did not exist whatsoever. Feds arrest ex-Florida Representative Dave Rivera, who had $50 million consulting deal with a Venezuela oil giant's U.S. affiliate. We found out yesterday, I believe, that Donald Trump had a $19.8 million debt to a company in South Korea that had a lot of involvement in North Korea. And he had that debt. It was pretty much dormant. He wasn't paying anything on it for like 5 years. He acquired the debt in 2011 and still held it with no paying down until and he became president. 5 months after he became president, he very quickly paid it down. I wonder why. And it was not revealed in the normal financials that you report. Man, a lot more has happened. I'm talking about all these things have just happened since Monday. All right? This is Wednesday. All these things have happened since Monday. want to move on now because I was on the radio the other day on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, sitting in on the Matt McNeil Show. And by the way, you can find the recording of that at am950radio.com. You can also go to toddmikkelson.com to find those shows. The other day, I did a Casey Kasem countdown, and I wanted to do a new Casey Kasem countdown for you today. It'll be kind of an immediate follow-up from the one I did just last Friday, where it was entitled Casey Kasem's Countdown of the Top 5 Reasons the GOP Got Trounced in the 2022 midterm elections that are blatantly obvious to most people, but they themselves are still completely oblivious to. Today's is an immediate follow-up, and it is entitled Casey Kasem's Countdown of the Top 6 Parts of the GOP House Leadership's Plan to Lose the 2024 Election and Beyond, even worse than they've lost the last few. So let's start it. Number 6. Our next artist just rose to number 6 in our chart. They prove in the lyrics that they either don't understand or they assume their followers don't understand about how many U.S. institutions work. They're trying to convince their followers that they will save them from these long-standing American institutions by investigating and doing their own oversights on the oversights. Here's their number 6 hit song, IRS Politicization and Abuse. There's actually a web page that's entitled republicanleader.house.gov. And at the top, it's got it's a weird kind of icon. I think it's either a bear or a rhinoceros and a star. And it says Kevin McCarthy, Republican leader, which may not be true because at the moment can't get enough votes to become the Speaker of the House. And even if he does become Speaker of the House, it's going to be because he had to appease the craziest of the crazies. So he's going to be beholden to them. And he's been making a lot of promises to them that, are just very unrealistic. So I'm reading from that page. You've heard him talk about this stuff. IRS politicization and abuse. I noticed that Casey mispronounced politicization. He's not quite as good as I am on the radio. Here's what it says. The Democrats have politicized the IRS at every turn, from the Lewis Lerner scandal, where they intentionally targeted conservative-leaning nonprofit organizations in an attempt to silence political speech they disagreed with. Of course, that's a huge lie. You can't be tax-exempt if you're a political entity. There are a lot of rules you need to stick to. That's why the IRS clamped down on anyway. The IRS has been understaffed, and so they go for the easiest audits. And the easiest audits are somebody who can't afford to fight against it. It's somebody who probably just made a mistake. Now, if the IRS is going to go after, somebody like, say, Donald Trump, who just got indicted on 17 counts of tax fraud, or at least his company did, are they going to go after the Trump organization and have to come up with millions of dollars to spend in lawsuits that the Trump organization can afford to bring against them? Maybe not millions, hundreds of thousands, And they don't have enough IRS agents to really investigate properly. So they kind of skip over those. And that's why it's been so easy for people like Donald Trump to cheat. I don't pay any taxes because I'm smart. Smart like that's never been seen. No. You don't pay any taxes because the IRS can't afford to go after you. And you know that. And other Republicans know that. And that's why you've heard about the 87,000 new IRS agents. About half that many are going to be retiring within the next few years. And this 87,000 IRS agents money is basically to be spread over the next 10 years. And most of it is just to replace current IRS agents. So in reality, it's not even adding 87,000. Another point they make in this Kevin McCarthy page, unlawful leaks of private taxpayer data to media outlets. That's just a bunch of huge BS. Abuse of 6,100 authority handing over private tax information without prosecution. Okay, a lot of this we're not going to be able to really even know what in the flying hell they're talking about. keeping my language as clean as possible. I should have said heck. These are the things that in the midterm elections in November, basically the constituents said, we're sick of you, GOP. We're sick of you saying that you're going to, all of this crap you've been saying. So let's move on to number 5. Number 5. Our next song is entitled DOJ and FBI, Politicization and Abuse. It's basically an instrumental version of our last song because the lyrics would be so much the same, they decided to leave them out. Okay, commenting here, back to Todd Mikkelson here. Again, I point out that Casey Kasem seems to be having trouble enunciating or pronouncing the word politicization. As you can see, I have no problem with that. DOJ and FBI politicization. It's the whole thing you've been hearing Trump talk about it because they raided Mar-a-Lago. Melania's not happy. They went through her underwear. He's been saying that the DOJ has been politicized and now doing a search and seizure under a warrant that's has to, hop through an awful lot of hoops to become real. I'll read the Kevin McCarthy explanation. The Biden administration has replaced equal justice under the law with partisan politics above all else. Prosecutors should not have a political bias, and the Attorney General should not be a partisan activist. It's complete projection, because the last time that happened was Bill Barr under Donald Trump, and it's not going on now. I'll go on with this official Republican leader page. House Republicans will investigate the investigators to tip the scales of justice back into balance. And here's what they're saying. Here's the bullet points. School board interference with Biden's DOJ and targeting parents as domestic terrorists. Because, yeah, that's been going on. I almost said it like Casey did. Politicization. Oh, God. Of the FBI to target political opponents. That just means the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Prioritizing investigating alleged domestic terrorists over child sex trafficking and padding numbers of actual domestic terrorism. Okay, I don't know if they're talking about us busting Republicans who are actually doing child sex trafficking or if they're trying to accuse Democrats of doing it. Targeting of American veterans as domestic threats. Okay, that's something I've never heard of. DOJ's misuse of prosecutorial discretion in ignoring violence and targeting political opponents. Casey, are you able to say prosecutorial? Prosecutorial. Okay, that was actually pretty good. So, yeah, you can see where this is going. They're making up just a lot of BS, but the thing is they're presenting it as an official, this is our promise to, it's part of their commitment to America. Kevin McCarthy's very serious when he's talking about this, and he's calling himself the Republican leader. I guess he is in the House at the moment, but he is going to have a hard time becoming the speaker, so this may be, it's not going to be able to have his name on it pretty soon anyway. So, see if you can start guessing, all right? Number 6 was IRS, politicization and abuse. And number 5 was DOJ and FBI, politicization and abuse. Number 4. Our next song just moved to number 4 in our charts. It's entitled The Crisis at the Border. Biden says there's better ways to spend his time than to visit the border. And that's, of course, because that's true. Nothing much has changed at the border since Trump was there. What they keep saying is that we've caught so many more illegal people trying to enter the country and dangerous people trying to enter the country than we did under Trump. Well, to me, that sounds like a good thing, right? We're actually catching them now. Trump didn't even know how to do that. And we have actually reunited hundreds of children with their families that Trump and Steve Miller, not Steve Miller, the guitar player, Steve Miller, the guy who was an advisor of Trump. Basically, they separated the families, if you remember all that. The crisis at the border is because Republicans have been blocking any legislation on immigration for decades. go back to Casey Kasem's countdown of the top 6 parts of the GOP House leadership's plan to lose the 2024 election and beyond, even worse than they've lost the last few. Number 3. Our next song is entitled Big Tech Silencing of Free Speech. Here's what's written on the Kevin McCarthy page under Big Tech and Silencing of Americans' Free Speech. Fundamental American rights are being threatened by the bias of big tech companies and their special relationship with government officials. We've seen Americans silenced, the truth censored, and viewpoints suppressed. House Republicans have a duty to ensure our fundamental freedoms prevail. We will investigate coordination and collusion with the federal government and intelligence officials to silence speech. Twitter, Facebook, and Google censoring information and suppressing free speech. And TikTok's threat to national security and PayPal's debanking efforts. Wow. You guys knock yourselves out. But now let's go to number 2. I bet you can guess what it is. Number 2 in Casey Kasem's countdown. I won't read the whole title again. We just did it. Our next song is called Education and Woke Ideology. Yeah. We saw this, and I have talked about this a little bit because of school board meetings and things like that. People showing up at school board meetings talking about, well, I'll read what's on the page. I don't know if I should read it like a movie trailer or I'll just read it normally. I'm doing too many voices. It's getting old. It's boring. It's not funny anymore. Schools should educate, not indoctrinate. Unfortunately, the classroom has been a battlefield where competing political ideologies, gender theories, and junk science wage war against the well-being of children across the country. I should have done it like a movie trailer. It's written like a movie trailer. Worse, the Biden administration has promoted harmful policies pushed by the far-left teachers' unions that have restricted learning and funded radical curriculums that poison the minds of children across America. A long list of bullet points. Federal government's involvement promoting critical race theory and other woke educational doctrines. Okay, first of all, critical race theory, nobody even really knows what the heck it is, and it's not being taught in schools a lot because nobody knows what the HE double hockey sticks it is. And woke, their new favorite word. What's wrong with being woke? They want us to be asleep so that they can fool us still? Would you rather be asleep or woke? Would you rather not see what's going on or see what's going on? I'm proud of being woke. Idiots. Anyway. Lack of scientific justifications for school closures, mask mandates in school, and COVID vaccine mandates for young children. Okay, I'm sure they're going to probably bring in Fauci to be a witness in that hearing. I'm sure Jim Jordan will be there. No, don't talk over me. I'm talking over you. Don't talk over me. Well, do you want me to answer the question? Don't talk over me. Don't talk. I'm talking. It's I'm calling back my time. Reclaiming my time. Okay, take it easy. Not the greatest imitations. That was Jim Jordan and Anthony Fauci. Legality of the Biden administration student loan debt transfer plan. Okay, that's paying off student loans. The positive effectiveness of Republicans' Tax Cuts and Jobs Act endowment tax, including its impact on the rising cost of education. Yeah, they're really digging deep here and making up tons of BS, and it's not even very well written. It's hard to read. So, yeah, we'll go a little bit more into what I was just talking about before as we go to number 1 in Casey Kasem's countdown of the top 6 parts of the GOP House leadership's plan to lose the 2024 election and beyond, even worse than they've lost the past few. Number 1! Our next song just moved to number 1 in our charts. It's entitled Hunter Biden's Dick Pics. A funky little tune you'd normally hear in the background of a gay porn film. Republicans have become so enamored with genitalia, these lyrics are also repeated in parts of our number 2 song. which was education and woke ideology, where they talk a lot about disfigurement of genitalia. They seem to really love to talk about things like that. So they actually have a category called Hunter Biden. Here's what it says. Hunter Biden's laptop connects President Joe Biden to his son's corrupt foreign business dealings, and House Republicans will investigate to what extent this connection impacts our national security, including whether President Biden has acted in our nation's best interest or his own family's self-interest. We will investigate the impact of Hunter Biden's foreign business deals on U.S. national security interests, the influence peddling and selling access to hostile foreign powers, and connection between the CCP, I think that's the Chinese Communist Party, connection between the Chinese Communist Party purchasing American natural gas and the Biden family receiving millions of dollars from a Chinese business, blah, 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 blah. So, of course, you heard about the big reveal last Friday that Elon Musk put out that basically was just a bunch of pictures of, I haven't seen them, but Hunter Biden naked, and I guess a lot of dick pics of Hunter Biden. But the Republican Party is saying that the government covered up the Hunter Biden laptop information. Joe Biden was not in government in 2020. They keep forgetting about when, they talk about the big recession under Obama. Well, that actually happened under George W. Bush. Obama's the one who came in and fixed it. He's the one who cleaned up the last Republican mess. And when the supply chain issues began and the recession, this new recession began, and over 1 million people died of COVID, that was when Donald Trump was president. And 9/11 happened when George W. Bush was president. I've even heard Republicans say that was Obama's fault. I don't even think Obama was born yet. Oh, my God. Other things that I didn't even mention. I only did 6 because, the Casey Kasem thing is funny for a little bit, and then it gets a little old. And he can't even enunciate words like politicization. As you can hear, I can. But anyway, so those are 6 points that are on Kevin McCarthy's Republican leader page, trying to point out the commitment to America. Honorable mentions also on this list, even more than 7 more. Washington spending. They're going to do oversight. They're going to have hearings on Washington spending, even though, again, the Biden administration hasn't really had a chance to begin spending yet. So, and they talk about it's Biden's Washington spending that caused inflation. Okay, again, inflation was going to be pretty much inevitable after the supply chain issues and then the Ukraine war and all of the mess-ups during the Trump administration in the COVID shutdown. Here's the list of things. Washington spending. Another thing is energy production and American industry. Okay, so I'm just going to finish the list before I talk about each of them. I don't even know if I'm going to talk about each of them. So Washington spending, energy production, breaking the swamp's bureaucracy. God. Breaking the swamp's bureaucracy. Afghanistan withdrawal, of course, you would have expected that to be in Casey's countdown. COVID origins. They want to have hearings on all these things. They're going to have committee hearings on all of these things. They want to talk about the origins of COVID. They want to talk about security, and they want to talk about China. The COVID origins thing, we could go into, and I have in past shows, about how if Hillary were president instead of Trump, if Jill Stein had not been installed as a Russian agent, as a Green Party candidate, enabling Trump to win Pennsylvania and Wisconsin so that Trump could win the electoral vote, even though he lost the popular vote by more than 3 million votes. If Hillary Clinton had become president instead, then in 2020, we would not have had all of our American agents thrown out of China by China, because China knew Trump is a twerp and he won't even know what this is that's going on. And he doesn't have anyone working for or under him that knows what's going on. So we're going to get rid of all the American oversight that exists here in China. There's a good chance that if Hillary Clinton was president, COVID-19 would have never spread outside of China, because we might have stopped it there, the same way SARS was stopped in 2002, I believe it was. we would have seen pictures of Chinese people wearing masks, kind of going, well, I'm glad it didn't spread further than that. It's too bad it happened to them, but I'm glad it didn't come here. So, I thought this was going to be a more fun show than it's turning out to be. The Casey Kasem show was supposed to be the fun part.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.